She fought and beat every man in the village. A long time ago, in the village of Ekwume, there lived a girl named Dikeledi. She was unlike any woman the village had ever seen, strong, fierce, and feared by all. Though her beauty was unparalleled, with deep-set eyes that shone like the evening stars and skin that glowed like the earth after rain, it was her strength and temper that made her infamous. From an early age, she had proven herself to be far more than just a pretty face. While other girls played or tended to household chores, Dikeledi trained her body. She spent her days in the forests, climbing trees, wrestling with boys, and even lifting heavy stones that most men struggled to move. Her mother worried, but Dikeledi was determined to protect herself at all costs. Her reputation grew as she grew older. Men whispered about her in the village square. "Beware of her," they would warn each other. "She fights like no woman should. She beats even the strongest men." It was no exaggeration. The men who dared to cross her path often left with swollen jaws, broken noses, and shattered pride. One fateful day, during a village festival, a group of young men, drunk on palm wine and arrogance, dared to challenge her. "Why does a woman act like a man?" one of them jeered. He was a well-known hunter, Muso, and considered one of the strongest in the village, but Dikeledi met his gaze without fear. "If you believe your strength surpasses mine, challenge me," she said, her voice as calm as the wind before a storm. The crowd gasped. No woman had ever spoken to a man like that in Ekwume. The villagers gathered in the village square, eager to witness the duel. Muso, thinking this would be an easy victory, laughed and lunged at her. But Dikeledi was faster, her reflexes sharp from years of training. She ducked, dodged his blows, and with one swift kick sent him sprawling to the ground. The crowd was stunned into silence. Muso lay on the ground, dazed and humiliated. He tried to rise, but Dikeledi stood over him, her foot pressed lightly on his chest, pinning him down. "Next time," she said coldly, "respect a woman's strength." From that day forward, no man dared to challenge her, and the tales of her battles spread far beyond Ekwume. Travelers who passed through the village would often stop to ask, "Is it true that a woman here can defeat any man?" The villagers would nod, telling the stories of how Dikeledi had bested not only Muso, but many others who had tested her strength. But despite her victories, Dikeledi remained alone. Her fierce independence and unmatched power kept suitors at bay. Some admired her from afar, but none dared to approach her. Mothers whispered to their sons to stay clear of her, fearing they would return home with bruises. One afternoon, while Dikeledi was at the river fetching water, she heard footsteps behind her. Turning sharply, she found herself face to face with a man she had never seen before. His face was stern, his build towering, and his eyes shone with a mixture of curiosity and respect. "Why does the village speak of you with such fear?" he asked calmly, his voice deep and unwavering. Dikeledi studied him for a moment, trying to gauge his intentions. "Because I do not let any man tell me what to do," she answered simply. She had no patience for fools. "I've heard stories of your strength," he continued, taking a step closer but keeping his distance. "But I don't wish to challenge you. I wish to understand you." This was new. Most men either cowered in fear or tried to prove themselves. But this stranger spoke with neither arrogance nor fear. He simply wanted to know who she truly was. Dikeledi felt a strange pull towards him, something she hadn't felt in a long time. But just as she opened her mouth to speak, a loud shout interrupted them. A group of men from the village appeared, all of them armed with sticks and ropes. "We've had enough of her. It's time to teach her a lesson," one of the men shouted. Dikeledi's heart hardened as she prepared for another fight. She stood tall, fists clenched, ready to defend herself against the mob. But before she could move, the stranger stepped forward, standing between her and the men. "Leave her alone," he said, his voice calm but firm. The men hesitated, unsure of who this newcomer was, but their anger overpowered their caution. They lunged forward, swinging their sticks, but the stranger fought back with surprising skill. He moved like a shadow, dodging blows and disarming his attackers with ease. One by one, the men fell to the ground, groaning in pain. When the dust settled, only the stranger and Dikeledi stood, unharmed. The defeated men staggered away, cursing under their breath, but none dared to return. Dikeledi looked at the stranger with new respect. "You didn't have to help me," she said, her voice softer than before. "I didn't help you," he replied, his eyes meeting hers. "I only stood by your side." For the first time in her life, Dikeledi felt a flicker of something unfamiliar: trust. But the battles of the past still weighed heavily on her heart, and she knew better than to let her guard down so easily. The village may have feared her, but fear had always been her shield. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the village, Dikeledi turned to the stranger, her mind full of questions. Who was he? And why did he come to Ekwume now, of all times? But before she could ask, he simply nodded at her and said, "We'll meet again." And just like that, he disappeared into the shadows, leaving Dikeledi alone by the river, her thoughts racing. Something told her that this was only the beginning, and that the peace she had fought so hard for might soon be shattered. Days turned into weeks, and the stranger who had defended Dikeledi by the river didn't return. Life in the village of Ekwume returned to its usual rhythm, with people carrying out their daily chores and gatherings. However, whispers about Dikeledi and the mysterious man spread like wildfire. The villagers speculated endlessly, weaving tales of magic and destiny, but no one dared to confront her. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the land, Dikeledi sat beneath the great baobab tree outside the village. She was deep in thought, reflecting on her life, her battles, her victories, and the constant isolation that had followed. Though she had earned the respect of the villagers, the price had been her loneliness. As she sat lost in thought, she heard footsteps approaching. She stood, her body tensing instinctively, but when she turned, she saw the stranger walking towards her. He looked the same as before, strong, calm, and determined. "I told you we'd meet again," he said, his voice breaking the stillness of the night. "I didn't think you'd keep your word," Dikeledi replied, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. "What brings you back?" The man sat down beside her, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "I've traveled far and wide, but no place has ever left an impression on me like this village, and no one has ever intrigued me the way you do." Dikeledi frowned, unsure of his meaning. "What is it about me that fascinates you? I've done nothing but fight all my life. The people here may respect me, but they fear me more." The stranger turned to her, his gaze piercing, but kind. "You've spent your life defending yourself, proving your strength. But strength isn't only in how many battles you can win. True strength is also found in the heart, in knowing when to fight and when to let go." Dikeledi listened quietly, her defenses lowering as his words sank in. "And what do you know of this strength of the heart?" she asked, her voice softer than it had been in years. He smiled slightly. "I know that the heart can heal, just as the body can. But it needs time, and it needs trust. You've built walls around yourself, thinking they would keep you safe. but those walls also keep out love, friendship, and peace. For the first time, Dikeledi felt a wave of vulnerability wash over her. She had spent her life shielding herself from harm, from judgment, from the control of others. But in doing so, she had also kept herself from experiencing the beauty of human connection. "What if I don't know how to let go of those walls?" she whispered, more to herself than to him. "You don't have to do it all at once," the stranger said gently, "but you can start small. Trust me, just as I trusted you when I stepped in to defend you. Trust the world around you to offer more than just challenges. It can also offer warmth, care, and love." They sat in silence for a while, the night settling around them. Dikeledi's mind raced, her heart heavy with the realization that her strength, though admirable, had also cost her something precious. The stranger was right. She had built her life on battles, but it was time to start living beyond them. The next morning, the village woke to an unfamiliar sight. Dikeledi walking through the village square, not with her usual guarded stance, but with an openness that took everyone by surprise. She smiled at those she passed, greeted the women by the market, and even helped a child who had tripped and fallen. The villagers watched in awe, unsure of the change, but sensing that something deep within her had shifted. Over the days that followed, Dikeledi began to embrace this new chapter of her life. She still trained her body, still practiced her skills, but she no longer sought out fights or challenges. Instead, she began teaching the children of the village, sharing with them the importance of strength, not just in battle, but in character and in kindness. Her lessons went beyond physical strength. She taught them to value compassion, to understand that there was strength in helping others, in forgiving, and in allowing oneself to be vulnerable. As for the stranger, he stayed in the village, becoming a quiet but steadfast companion to Dikeledi. He never forced her to change, but he stood by her side as she learned to find balance between the warrior she had always been and the woman she was becoming. Years passed, and Dikeledi's legend continued to grow. But this time, the stories that spread about her were not just of her strength in battle. They were stories of how she had become a leader, a teacher, and a source of wisdom for the entire village. And so, her journey came full circle, from a feared warrior to a beloved leader. Dikeledi's name became synonymous with strength of the heart, as much as with the strength of her fists. Moral lessons: true strength comes from within. Physical power is important, but the real strength lies in the heart, knowing when to stand your ground and when to let go. Walls keep out more than just pain. In protecting yourself from hurt, you may also shut out love, friendship, and peace. Allowing yourself to be vulnerable can lead to greater connections with others. Balance is key. Life isn't just about winning battles. It's about finding harmony between defending yourself and embracing the world with compassion and trust. Leadership is about guiding, not dominating. Real leaders inspire others, not through fear or control, but by sharing wisdom, showing kindness, and offering a path to follow. Related Bible lesson: trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. Proverbs 3:5-6. Just as Dikeledi learned to trust in something greater than her own strength, we too are called to trust in God. Only through Him can we find true peace and strength in our lives.